Hey, Don't Die Rusty Nation. This is Rick Hansen, and my co host Ricky Bruley is on the other end here.
Yep, I'm here.
Last week, I did an episode with world champion bull rider Cody Custer and world champion bullfighter Jerry Norton. As many of you know, I'm learning. I'm old, but I'm learning. I had some technological difficulties. And so it was a great conversation, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But so I'm having technical difficulties, and I can't figure out some stuff. I FaceTime Ricky Bruley, and he's at some hip hop concert, or where were you at?
I was at the world famous First Avenue in Minneapolis, and I was there to see Atmosphere play, which is a couple of guys that I've been listening to for 20 years. So you got a couple of, it was like Beastie Boys. You got a couple of gray haired 45-year-olds up there, just like. it was awesome. But I knew that I wasn't going to be able to be a part of that episode. And so, and I had told Rick, I was like, Susan and I, we're having a date night, we're going out. And in the middle of the concert, my phone starts buzzing and it's Rick FaceTiming me. And I was like, honey, we're just going to remind Rick that we're at the concert here real quick.
So I get this. I'm looking at Ricky, and he's going like he can't hear me, and I'm going, ah, crap! I forgot he was going to this thing, and I'm going. Now I got to figure it out myself.
And meanwhile, you got these two cowboys in the room, listening to hip hop coming out of your phone, going, "What in the world?"
Yeah. And I think we're on what episode are we on now? Like
Well,
we're on 26, 27?
we just did 25, so this is going to be episode 26.
So then I really look stupid because we've done 26 of them and I still can't figure this stuff out. I do have it figured out, but a lot of it because I did get it figured out. But
Yeah,
it's interesting though because we're getting there, and can you believe, Ricky? We're at 26.
26. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
That
It's
is
wild.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's just like already, it seems like it was just a week ago we were talking about our episode 30 recap, and it's like, man, we're almost there. You know what I mean? So I got to start. I was like, geez, I got to figure out how I'm going to set that up. And, cause me and my sister are going to do that one in person. So I got to figure out like, how am I going to
Yeah.
get that organized? I got to start looking into that. So yeah, it's flying by. I mean, these weeks are cruising and it's just awesome. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better every time.
And how lucky are we getting? And we'll get to the episode here real quick here, but how lucky are we to be able to talk to the people we are? I mean, Wild Man Dan and now Cody Custer and Jerry Norton, world champion cowboys and bullfighters, and to get a Don't Die Rusty attitude and lifestyle out there. It is amazing how people are just taking the Don't Die Rusty. Every day I mean, since last year, I get to the point where it's like, it is so funny that we created this, that the thought came with the Don't Die Rusty, and then me going back and forth with you saying, hey, I want to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
1 year
and
plus already in the making. So
exactly.
yeah, it's been great. And just the last couple of episodes have opened up a ton of doors. And then after, so episode 27, won't get too much into detail, but that's a wild story. And again, another one that has like developed through other people listening and communicating and talking with us and stuff. And so it's just cool how it just compounds.
We know that Wild Mountain Man Dan was on the last episode here. I'm going to say I love y'all.
Love y'all.
Enjoy Cody Custer and Jerry Norton. Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. I am lucky enough, my co-host Ricky Bruley is at some rap concert in Minneapolis, and I'm sitting here in South Dakota boring the heck out of two world champions in the rodeo industry. I'm lucky enough to be here with NFR world champion Cody Custer.
Yes, sir.
And I'm here with Jerry Norton.
1998 world champion.
1998 world. How am I so lucky to be in here with a world champion bull rider and a world champion bullfighter?
Was that right? 98 or 99?
Yeah, 98. Yes,
Well,
sir.
I didn't know the date that you won.
Yeah.
I knew it,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
here with two world champions, and I mean, and another thing, I'm in here in South Dakota where I wouldn't think I would meet him. I'd think I'd meet him like in Las Vegas or somewhere out west or in Texas or somewhere like that, but we're in here in South Dakota. And they've watched me with my technological ineptness, but
Very entertaining.
Let's
thank
just
you.
say there's room for improvement.
There is room for it. I'm fresh, I'm not Joe Rogan,
Right.
But
It's coming.
it is, and what's interesting about everything here is we had supper together. We talked at the bull. Cody's putting on a bull riding school here in Huron, and I got to watch that earlier today. And then we went out and had supper, and we've had conversations which I wish I would have just recorded then,
Good stuff. It's a good conversation.
Yeah.
It is, and I was telling you earlier, I feel lucky because everything I learned in our conversations at supper, I can take and utilize within myself.
Right.
And it's one of those things that we all learn, and we all have a good. I mean, the vibe was good to me anyway. I mean, I don't know about you.
Oh,
but
yeah, it was great.
Let's face it. Like your story is gonna be a part of my story, and my story is gonna be a part of your story if we allow that. And that. I mean, I think we discredit a lot of people for whatever the cause is, whether it be race or financial stability or whatever. We kind of and like in our industry, rodeo, I remember growing up as a kid, like anybody that was not a bull rider was not worthy.
Yeah.
and it's stupid. I mean, it's just stupidity. But, along the way, you learn to take people in and meet different people. And I've got people that I met along the rodeo trail that were committee people or just rodeo fans that are still close to me and basically became family to me, because when you're away from your family, up in the Northwest, when I'd go up there in this time of year, I'd be up in Othello, Washington. There was a guy that was on the committee, and we stayed there at his house, and I think I had more birthdays at their house than I did at anywhere else. So,
Well, and I mean, we were talking earlier, and I do want to get this plug in because Lacey Singleton of Sober Cowboy lined us up.
yeah.
And that's
incredible lady.
She is amazing, and she's doing wonders with Sober Cowboy.
Yeah.
And if anybody's out there listening to this, you certainly need to check out Lacey's Instagram and check out Sober Cowboy on any of the platforms, because she is doing good. And I have never. When we talk about heart, we
heart.
we were talking about bull riders or it doesn't matter if it's anything in life. If you don't have heart to do it, you aren't going to be good at it. And Lacey has a heart, she is going after it.
She's a pretty incredible gal.
And so, and I want to talk about, since we're talking about Lacey, it's about you guys, hanging out with you guys, and we were talking about the people we surround ourselves that make us better. and it's amazing to see. Like, I never thought that I'd be honestly sitting by two world champions, and I'm not trying to be. I don't know. Eric. I'm lucky, but to feel that but I mean to feel like you guys did it in with heart and with goals and with pain and with suffering. And, I mean, we do these things
and a few breaks.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're honest, like it's, I don't put a lot of stock in luck, but you gotta have things go your way, and so, you know, I mean, you can sit here and pat yourself and take all the credit. I think some of it's blessings, you know, outside of what we actually do. So, I mean, I can't take 100% credit for it. I did work hard for it, but I had, you know, faith in myself, faith in God, and I worked hard. I was not a slough off guy. So that's what I attribute that to.
You got to work hard to be in the right place to make things happen. Or for when things do happen, you got to be there, be ready to receive it, be ready to take it over, take on, or get after it. It's the try.
That's interesting to me because I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm ADD, but I was just thinking about this. Like, how much does a bullfighter influence a bull rider in that luck?
I mean, you got to have bullfighters that are prepared to get the bull's attention when you're in a bind, you know. But I don't, you know, there's a lot of guys out there that fight bulls that aren't really the guys that I would look out between the bars and go, oh, I'm in good shape. I'd have a little bit of doubt, but you know, this guy's not one of them. But there's a bunch of them out there. But then there's a handful of guys too that when you look out and see those guys out there, you're willing to. I mean, I think as a bull rider, you got to be willing to give your life to whatever. But when you see guys out there that are there protecting you, it makes it, you just kind of go, okay, I'm good.
Does it make it easier to do your job?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to
be thinking about that.
Well, because I was going like, say, you look out and see Jerry out there, and you're going to say, if I get hung up, I know that I'm not going to get I know I'm probably going to get beat up a little bit, but hopefully I'm not going to get stomped on, horned, or anything else, you know.
Well, the mentality in this deal, like between your ears is really where the battle is. That all the other stuff is just stuff that you work hard for. You got to get mentally tough. You got to get prepared. You got to. I call it compartmentalize. You put things where they belong. Like, there's been 1,000 times I looked out and saw bullfighters that I wasn't really confident in. But you got to shelf that and still do your job. You still have a job ahead of you. And so I think, you know, the mentality of what you have to the way you got to live and the way you got to shove things to where they belong, which is not in your brain. There's a small little tunnel you got to get in. Everything outside that's a distraction if you allow it to be. And so you pull everything in, take your thoughts captive, and you've got a mission. And that's one thing that, you know, and I've been where that you know, that tube was too big, where it did mess with my mind. But when you're on your game and you pull everything in, man, nothing matters. You're doing your job. You got confidence in who you are and what you prepared for. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you don't prepare, you know inside yourself you didn't prepare for it. But if you're prepared for it, you can go into battle with total confidence that it's going to come out good on the other side, whether it does or not. But
I think it's got to be, and it gets to a point to where it's extreme confidence. Some people may interpret it, if they're on the outside, they can interpret that that's arrogance, but it's not. It's a point of believing in yourself to the point that it don't mind, or if I don't mind, and it don't matter. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, whether somebody thinks I can or not, and you do it. Wouldn't you agree? It's just
Right.
it's a borderline. It's not arrogance, but it's like
selfishness. You gotta be selfish in what you're doing. Now, I tell when I do a lot of schools, I tell them kids, look, bull riding's selfish. You got whatever it is, bullfighting, bull riding, whatever you're going for in your goals. You got to be selfish with it, but that selfishness has got to be inside. It can't radiate out that way, because I know a lot of guys that their selfishness went out that way, and after their career's over, what do they have except a gold buckle or whatever? But you pull that selfishness inside, and you make choices to push people aside that are not helpful to what you're doing. I don't say you treat them like they're not worthy or worth anything, but you distance yourself. And we talked, we were talking about that, the people you surround yourself with. You got to take your circle and push some people away from your circle and pull everything in, so that you get people that are behind you and believe in you. And that there's naysayers, whatever. That's that can motivate you, or that can pull you down. And so I think the less naysayers you have around you, the better it is for you. But the naysayers at the same time can be a motivator too.
I agree with you there, because that's where when I get told I can't do something, it's not that competition that it's to prove that I can to myself more than actually to them.
Yep.
it has to be for yourself. It can't be for somebody else.
Yeah, you always have something to prove, but if it's for somebody else, then it's not really that valuable.
Yeah, and it's just when you say it's selfish, though, when you say that it's selfish, it's interesting to me, because I'm out there seeing you with your teaching kids to be the better selves. So I understand when you're saying that you got to be confident to be in. That's kind of selfish, but I love the fact that you two are out there teaching kids to be the better bull rider if they want to.
Yeah.
Giving them the choice.
And on the backside of it, like we're long past being the champs, but I mean that's something that stands forever. But the thing is, like, I'm 32 years from being the world champ. He's whatever that
pretty
is,
close to
20 some odd years. But
Yeah.
but the thing is, we're still at heart. At the end of the day, I'm still a bull rider.
Yeah.
I don't do it anymore, but I'm still a bull rider. There's a lot of guys that rode bulls really well, and they left the sport, and they're not a bull rider anymore. They were at one time. I'm still a bull rider. Like, I don't care what you say. If I had a guy the other day told me, you used to be, and I said, no, I'm damn sure still a bull rider. Like, I'm not just a used to be. I'm still a bull rider. And that kind of bothers me, that mentality, because at heart, if I was 20 years younger, guess what? I'd still be kicking their ass,
Well, and that's funny, because we were talking about one of our friends, Patrick Booth. He was a bullfighter, and he got in a bad accident and coma and wasn't in a good deal. But before he went and did that, he was a former Marine. He's still a Marine. He's just not active. And I'm lucky enough that I've hung around some special ops people, and they're still special ops. They're former, they're not active.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's the deal. This is where I'm going with this. Even though they're former, they still kick my ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's still in them. It's still inside. It's still
yeah.
in your heart. If you step away from it, like I'm much farther away from it than Cody is, but I guarantee you that you can trip a trigger in me, and I'm right back there.
Yeah, we saw it today when we got out there. We were bucking bulls, and old Jerry, his old
motor
was running. It was pretty cool. It was kind of fun to see.
And that's the cool part about. I mean, I felt lucky when I texted you and said, "Hey, can I come and watch?" And then it's funny because your deal didn't come through, and I thought, well, they're going to be doing it at the fairgrounds here. And then I got there, and this lady that could barely speak English says, "No, across the river there's a rodeo arena," and that's where I ended up. I was a little late there, but it was fun watching you guys just talk to these kids, and And anyway,
At least I text you back. I didn't even text him back.
oh, thank you. And I knew you were going to be busy, and I knew that. But I found it. But here's the deal. I want to know, because Don't Die Rusty is about chasing your dreams, being the best you, living your best life. Because here's what I say. Here's one of my Don't Die Rusty thoughts, and actually some of the other people have used that. But I say you can fill that glass. It's only a quarter full right there.
Yeah.
And you can fill it up halfway, or you can fill it full. And then it can tip over and there's no water in there. Until you drink the water. So that's what I mean. Until you fulfill your dreams or fulfill your life and start making memories. I should say it's drinking that water starts giving you the energy to keep on moving forward. What was the point in your life where you knew that you were chasing your dreams and you were fulfilling these goals?
What was the point that we knew we were chasing our dreams?
Here's the deal. Here's where I'm going with this is like I've talked to a few people that have had drug addictions. And I say, because I've always been interested in this is my thought process is there had to be and I know that there's not anymore because I said there's always a switch that you shut it off, is done. But there has to be, now there's a point where you start gradually getting there and then you start believing in yourself and then you start saying, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this because it's going to make me better here. And then I'm going to stop doing this and it's going to be making me better here. And you know what? Now I'm a world champion.
Yeah.
In either facets.
Right.
So I've got a story. I grew up. My brother and sister died in a car accident or carbon monoxide poisoning in 1972. Mom and Dad went to the extreme away from a pure life. Let's put it that way. It's pretty wild. And I was smoking marijuana at the age 11. I could go to the go to the refrigerator and pop a beer, and it was just common. That's just how it went. So the party life was part of my life, and I remember 1985 I was in Billings, Montana, and I was smoking some marijuana with a guy and a gal out on a balcony, and I looked up and I saw as many stars in the sky as you could see, and it was just the most beautiful. It was just a moment, and I feel like the Lord spoke to me at that point, like, this is going to steal your dream. And I laid that aside. So I tell this story to all my schools because I want those kids to know, hey, we all make mistakes, but you got to make choices. And when I laid that aside, my self-esteem grew, and my talent level came up to that. And so I got better in the arena. And then a few years later, I did the same thing with my drinking because I saw that was destroying what I was trying to do. And same thing, my self-esteem, my pride in myself went higher, and then everything came up to that point. That was in 1989 maybe. And and there's been some other choices. There's 1988 was my buddy Jeff Crockett got killed in a bull riding accident, and I made a decision to follow Christ, and my self-esteem went to a different level. So did my riding. So all those choices you make to lay aside the things that are maybe going to destroy what you want to do are I guess monuments in your life. I think about those, and so I tell the story. In 1982, I had a journal. I was in high school, and at the front of my journal, I had my goals for the year. Had my goals for 5 years. My goal was to make the NFR. And my 10-year goal was to be the world champion. That's in 1982. I made the NFR in 1987, which is 5 years. I was a world champion 10 years, or 1992, which was 10 years. So I tell those kids, like, write that stuff down so it's in your face and you look at it, and it's something that's tangible. And it's not a magic thing. It's just something you put in front of yourself. And I remember 1991, I got hurt in the 9th go-round and had to go to the hospital. didn't even know if I was going to get on in the 10th round. I was kind of hurt, and I knew what bulls were going to be in that 10th round. And I was like, there was 3 bulls that I was like, yeah, I'll get on those. And came back and had one of those bulls. He was called Wolfman. Was 94 points. I got the highest mark right of the whole year, or the whole finals.
Yep.
And after the performance was over, we did our interviews, and Tough Hedeman won the world that year. And I remember going in the locker room, and his stuff was there, and my stuff was there. And I packed all my stuff up, and I wrote a little note to Tough, just thanking him for believing in me, and put it on his rigging bag. Walked out, and I walked to the top of the ramp, and I remember turning around. There's a sign that has Thomas and Mack Coliseum there, or whatever it's called, but Thomas and Mack, and I just remember when I leave here next year, I will be the world champ. I knew that day that I was going to be the world champ, and so, everybody asks you like what did it feel to win the world? I was like, it was expected. It wasn't a shock. You know what I'm saying? And so I think there comes a point in your life when you come to the belief in yourself so much that it's not a shock. That wasn't a shock to me. I won the world. I walked away the best bull rider in the world, and then the years following that, there was a lot of struggles in my life as far as just injuries and all that stuff, and so those decisions I made back in 1985, 1988, 1989, those things had my self-esteem high enough that when stuff started collapsing and not being the champ and all that stuff, it didn't affect me. Like it was at the time I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, but looking back on it, like it was the best time. It was probably the best time of my life. I saw my son who was killed in 1988. 2011. I get my decades mixed up, but I got to see his first couple years of life because I was injured, and so I take that as, hey, that was a blessing. Like I didn't see it at the time, but it was good times back then, and so you can't really. I don't think we have the plans we have for our life sometimes goes in a little bit different direction, but even I guess the decisions we make to get there are really big, and like I call them monuments in my life. I just remember when Jeff got killed in 1988, that was a monument. That changed my life totally. And so I think we got to look past the stuff that goes on in our lives that aren't pleasant and make them, or don't look past them, but don't make them the end of who we are. Like make them be something substantial for us. So
I like thinking, don't let that identify who I am.
Yeah.
Don't let that stop me in living life.
Yeah.
Use it as, okay, yeah, that was a valley, but I'm going to work back to the peak, or I'm going to, like you were saying, a lot of times our goal is up here, but we don't see the peaks and valleys in between. But those are what make us able to get there.
Well, if you think about our careers, like what do you think of when we start talking about we're not talking about the time we rode Wolfman or anything. I mean, that's not what we talk about. We talk about the good times we had with the people we met, and you meet a lot of people in the world, and to me, I think that's probably the hardest part of not rodeoing anymore, is not being, seeing certain guys that we were brothers, like we were tied together. We saw them every day, and then all of a sudden you're done riding and they're done riding, and you don't talk to them hardly ever, and it's like Jerry and I, we hadn't talked for several years until I listened to a podcast he was on just talking about mental health and stuff, and it struck me that, man, I need to talk to Jerry. We need to have some conversation, and we've had some good conversations.
It was cool. It was out of the blue. Cody's calling me? Uh-oh. A lot of times it's like, oh, well, what happened, But yeah, it's what's so cool, too, is whether you're rodeoing in the middle of your career, you don't see somebody for 3 weeks or 2 months or a day, and you just pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
Almost like it was just hours earlier, but you just pick up and.
Yeah.
I came up with a saying of, I don't miss going, but I miss being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I miss being there with the
yeah.
buddies and doing the shenanigans or competing and just, the adrenaline, the camaraderie. I miss being. I don't miss being gone and traveling and driving so much and just the being gone.
Well, you think about like when your buddy wins a bull riding, it's as good for you as it is if you win it.
Yeah.
Like it's a pretty cool deal. Our lifestyles really. I mean, I guess other sports are the same way, but I just feel like we were so blessed to live our own life, and we were our own boss, and we got to, how else would I ever meet Jerry? You know, it was rodeo,
and however you performed, it was up to you. It wasn't a whole team. If you screwed up, you screwed up. There's no hiding it.
Yeah.
And you have to learn from it if you're going to get any better. If you're
I
gonna,
don't know. I always blamed it on the bullfighter somehow.
God doggone, he's in the way. Pulled the bull out of spin. Doggone. Seems like that happens a lot to you, Cody.
Well, you guys have said two things that if I had a notebook, which I do over there, but I don't. Luckily I can remember this. But the one thing was, when bad things happen, you don't realize that good things happen with the bad things.
Yeah.
And I take that into my life, and people have heard this in previous episodes. But I went through a divorce, and I didn't know. I actually came back to Reheights and recollected myself and worked on the ranch, and then I went back out to spearfish. But I got to spend 6 months with my mom and dad, roughly. And little did I know that my mom would be gone here in about 2 years after that.
Yeah.
Or so. But, I look back and get to say, you know what, I got to spend that time.
Right.
And within that divorce that I was talking about too, and then you were talking about where you found God, we'll say. I talked to it's in the previous one with Kelly Lovelace, but there's a night I couldn't sleep, and Kelly and I have been talking and stuff like that, and I climbed a mountain in Spearfish Crow Peak in the dark. I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
And what I did was I just said, here I am, God. I'm not here on a death wish, but I'm going to climb mountain lion or whatever. I'm believing in you, and I just gave myself and climbed to the top and came down. And from that time on, it was just like, if you have faith in God, and this isn't a religious podcast, but if you have faith in God, I believe that you have faith in yourself. You begin to get that faith in yourself, right, where people don't. I see people that don't have that confidence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have confidence now.
Yeah.
And I think that was when you truly believe in something like that, you gain confidence.
Yeah.
And then you're hanging around those people that are making you better, so it makes you a better person.
You kind of feed off each other.
You do. And that's what I noticed with you two tonight with supper. You just kind of feed off each other, and it's a good thing, and it's fun to see, because like I have friends that have called me and I went, it's been like a year or two, we forgot, but then it's like you've never missed a beat.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, I don't know the last time we saw each other. Years.
Couldn't even guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been 10 years.
Yeah.
Or more.
Could easily be.
Yeah.
I see you in the funny papers once in a while.
Well, I think I just think, like, you and I have been. I mean, we've been around each other forever, but I'd kind of be interested in, like what got you started in bullfighting? Like we've never even approached that, because most guys that fight bulls didn't start fighting bulls. They did something else in the rodeo world.
You know, I competed in 4-H and high school rodeo in bareback and saddle bronc and a little bit of steer wrestling. I wasn't any good at any of them. But boy, at those rodeos, 4-H high school rodeos right around here in South Dakota, man, I saw these bullfighters. And I had the mentality of a linebacker, moves of a running back, and I just like knocking heads. I just like being aggressive, daring. That just gives me a thrill. It takes a little more to give me a thrill than most. And man, I got to be talking to those guys and kind of picking their brains and like, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Or, geez, how'd you get away with that? And started hanging out with those guys, and pretty soon they painted me up and stuck me in the barrel one time. Kurt Hall was who did it.
Really?
Yeah, Kurt and Keith Jorgensen.
Ah,
Yeah, out in Ree Heights.
really?
Yeah, crazy. Small world, huh?
It is a small world.
Yeah. So that's how I got started. And they stuck me in the barrel, and I got down. And it was an old steel barrel with no pads inside, and young bulls.
Was that one of those concussions?
I don't remember. So I'm down in there, and man, this bull's coming. I go down there and duck and I brace and just waiting for the impact. Nothing happened. I pop my head up, and he's in the catch pen already. but just the anticipation of like, oh, here it comes, and just bracing for it. Never happened, but oh my gosh, the fuse was lit. And from there, I went to a couple schools. Steve Mowry, Rob Smets, went to their schools. Steve Mowry's, he and I out at Sutton's, just went through some bulls, and one-on-one couldn't have been a better school. And what's cool now is, Steve and I don't live too far from each other, and we've gotten to be pretty close, and gotten to be pretty good friends.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I just went through, went to the schools, went to like amateur rodeos, just kind of working my way up. And it's kind of interesting that I worked my way up, and I went to college. I knew that rodeo wouldn't last forever. I knew I wanted to do something afterwards, or have something to do something with. So as I was in college, I worked my way up and through the ranks, and I had a goal of getting my pro card and maybe even making the NFR in the bullfights or protecting the bull riders. And the year I graduated college, I went to the NFR in the bullfights.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated in May, and I went to the NFR in December.
What year was that?
91.
91.
91.
That's awesome.
But I went. I snuck in by $50 as a rookie. I didn't think I belonged there. Looking back now, of course, I earned my way there. But at the time, I didn't feel like I belonged. And I just went like, boom, you go right to the top. And when you go to the top, you don't have a lot to fall back on. So I get to the finals, and I'm wearing the tightest necktie you ever saw. I choked. I didn't fight the way I could, and I just choked. And it showed. And I was young and green. Didn't know what to be afraid of. But so I didn't have a good finals there. And I come back home, and, man, I wanted to run and crawl in a hole. I was just embarrassed and ashamed. That's how I did. And I just decided that, you know what, I'm not going to let that be the last of me. So I applied myself. I had a year lined up because of the Wrangler bullfights, the way that they were set up then. You could go to...
That was the glory days of the Wrangler bullfights back then.
Yeah. Well, after they opened it up, they were the glory days where you could go to as many rounds as you wanted, as many as you could book. Well, first event after the finals, I tore my knee up.
Oh.
Had to have it reconstructed. It's like, dang. So I was already feeling terrible, embarrassed, whatnot. I got pretty depressed. Well, you get your knee replaced or fixed. Yeah, you're sitting on the shelf for a while, not making any money. So, yeah, I got pretty depressed. But, part of it, it's all part of the journey where you got to fight and scratch and get what you want instead of taking what comes at you. So that was 91. I made it back to the finals in 94, which is 3 kind of long years in rodeo business, really, and especially for a bullfighter, I think. And I made it back there, and man, I won a check. First time there, I didn't win a check. So that was part of my embarrassment. So I went back in '94, and I won a check, one round, and I walked out of there, and just thinking, I had a major knee reconstruction, and I fought back. I'm back here at the finals. I can run with the big dogs. I've come back. I can. So that was kind of like
That's
where there's
good
a little,
feeling,
So I remember walking out of the Thomas and Mack, thinking, I gotta apply myself more. I gotta do more. I can run with the big dogs, but if I'm gonna win the world title, I gotta do something more. So I got digging around. Did some research, and I started watching, or I read autobiographies and biographies on matadors, and I learned some things about bulls that a lot of guys in the States will never learn.
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept that close to the vest, and so I didn't make it back to the finals again until '97. So in '97, my confidence was a lot better. I had a lot more to fall back on, And in '97, I made history at the NFR. I became the first guy to not win money twice.
High five.
But the deal was, the whole difference was, I had my confidence, and I remember I could take you right to where I did it. Or I had my gear bag over my shoulder, walking out after the NFR, after the bullfights were over, and I just remember looking back. It's like, I'll be back. I will be back. And I knew I was going to win the world championship. That's where you just talked about attitude. You just know it. It wasn't a surprise to you.
No.
You expected it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was for me. That hit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So I come back in '98, and I just took it to him. And to me, it kind of touched on it a little bit. If you want something, you got to go after it. If it's like fighting bulls, if you stand there and a bull's coming at you, you can do with whatever the bull brings to you. But I figured out that if I take it to him, that's still today. That's my motto of whatever. So I could take a bull that a lot of guys had that would score, and the guys would average on a score, whether it's 80 or 85 or whatever it is. I took a lot of pride in, like, I'm going to make this bull better. I'm going to make him so I could
Get some more points.
I'd score more points than a lot of guys did with the bulls.
Yeah.
And that was being more aggressive. Sometimes you really had to kind of nut up and swallow hard. That, oh my gosh, this bull brings it anyway. But I figured out if I take it to him, he's going to react to me, and I don't have to take what he brings. I'm going to make something happen. It's like shaking and baking. You're going to make something happen, and man, that's when the fun stuff. That's when the cool things the results would happen.
That's cool.
Because I have to thank you, because like we're out. When I told you I worked for Eagle Pass Ranch when I was in between stuff when I was younger, and I have to say, like, I calved out 1,000 heifers. I was the night calver. Like I told you,
it was that night. He said it was 1,000.
Yeah, but you're the young guy, so you are the night calver.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do the day stuff. But it's funny because there's times you get those heifers that needed to have a calf pulled, and I learned a few bullfighting skills from you to get away.
Yeah. Watch your back.
Exactly. But was there anybody that you looked up to as a bullfighter when you got into it? Because here's the deal: I'm young. I think Miles Hare. I think
there were so many guys that were great when we came in. Like we're pretty close to the same era. There were so many great guys, and I mean, I'm not a bullfighter by any means, but man, I was a fan of watching those guys do their stuff, because there was a bunch of badass guys out there that weren't afraid of anything.
You're right. Some of them are in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Miles Hare, Rob Smets.
Yeah.
I looked up to them. Steve Mowry. I really looked up to Steve. Tried to emulate what some of those guys did, and I think I ended up doing it. I think one of the coolest compliments I ever got was somebody told me, he says, you know what, you fight like a mix of Steve Mowry and Rob Smets.
Huh.
You kind of got to. I'm like, that's cool.
Isn't
I'll take
The
it.
guys I learned from.
You know,
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
so what's really cool in rodeo though, is you get to meet your heroes,
yeah.
and then you get to like you were competing
Yeah.
against them,
Yep.
and then I was competing against my heroes, and we got to be pretty good friends too. And that's a part of rodeo that I don't know if that happens in all the other sports.
Yeah, there's very few guys that are just total jerks. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys that are a little standoffish, but like when I was a kid, John Quintana was like one of my heroes. He's a world champ, and he made me feel like I belonged.
Mm-hmm.
And so that influenced me
Mm-hmm.
to do the same for these kids. It's like
Bingo.
Like I don't matter. It doesn't matter who I was at one point. It's who they saw that I was. They knew who I was, and they're coming to me for advice or training or whatever. And you know what? I give everything I can to them because I want to see them succeed. Because I remember what guys like John Quintana and
Mm-hmm.
Denny Flynn, those guys made me feel like I belonged. There was a few guys that were champs that didn't make me feel that way, and I did not want to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to always be the guy that made people feel like they belonged, and they were. And I can't say that I didn't. Like when I was competing and I was a good bull, really good bull rider. I kind of stayed to myself. I would, I'd greet everybody, but then I'd get off by myself because I had to. That's how I dealt with the mental part of this deal. I went and got by myself, spent a little time with me, spent a little time with God, spent a little time with, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to, why are you even here? And so, but those guys, like now, I have nothing to prove. I have no, I don't have the pressure of being entered, so I show up places, and it's funny because one guy the other day said, hey, this guy asked me for your number. Do you care if I give him your number? I said, dude, my number is on bathroom walls between Albuquerque and Phoenix. You give my number to anybody. But I want, like, I give all these kids my number, and I get videos all the time. Like, what can I do better? And I text them back, and I try to answer every message I get on social media and texting and stuff because I feel like it shows them that I value them.
Absolutely.
And whether they make it in the world of bull riding or rodeo, I want them to be a good human being that treats other people with respect. And if they see that in me and they take that value from me like I did those guys that were my heroes that treated me right, I just think that's what we're supposed to do as humans. We're supposed to keep, help each other get through it because everybody's got something going on.
Oh yeah.
And I've been there. I've been to the lowest valley and the highest peak, and man, you need people both places.
Absolutely.
I do agree with you. Like, there's very few sports that you get to meet your heroes and become friends with them because, I mean, if we'll just take a baseball or a football, or in those aspects, by the time if you're in high school, you got to go through college and get to those points. These guys are usually done because they're broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to be in the same company as them and they see you as an equal or roughly an equal,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they have more experience, but that has to be a great feeling, I take that as that is the most, it'd make me feel good myself.
Yeah.
Well, you're accepted. I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we all want.
Yeah.
In the bottom of our heart, want to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
And boy, you know what? If somebody's pouring into me, boy, that feels good.
Yeah.
I see Cody doing it, and it's just, I think I could speak for Cody a bit that I'm the same way. I want to leave the world a better place than I found it.
Yeah. I mean, and guys like Jerry, like he calls and checks on me sometimes, and it's just, it makes me feel good that people think you get caught up in what you're doing, and I'm busy. I'm a busy dude, but when somebody calls just out of the blue to check on you, that makes you feel like, man, that's good stuff. And I got a good story. I was in Vegas at the PBR finals one year, and I just walking down the hallway at the MGM, and this guy looks at me. He's like, he's in a business suit, and he goes, you Cody Custer? I said, yes, sir, and shook his hand. He said, what are you doing in Vegas? I said, well, PBR finals are here. He goes, oh, heck, I didn't know that. He's a glass salesman.
Yeah.
And and so we just get to shoot in the breeze, and he used to ride bareback horses and stuff when he was young. Well, we just kind of struck a friendship up, and we visited for a little bit, and then we left, and I just said, well, God bless you, you know, shook his hand and walked off. About a month later, I get a call on this guy. His name's Steve Shamira. We're business partners now, so we've become pretty good friends. But anyway, he's like, man, I haven't been able to sleep since I met you. And I was like, what's that about? You know, and he said, you said God bless you to me at the end of our conversation the other day. And he said, I've had a lot of people say that to me, but he said, you meant it. And so our relationship, our time together, and our relationship and our conversations and stuff led him to a place of relationship with God, and his whole family's serving God now and stuff. So it's kind of just stuff like that. It's you can't get. I feel sad for the guys that haven't gotten over themselves. That they're
still living in the glory days.
Yeah, they're you know, it's I call it arrogance. I'm really against arrogance, but I just feel like they haven't gotten over themselves. And, you know, it doesn't matter. That guy stopped me in the hallway, and we became friends, and his life's changed not because of me, but because of our conversations, and because God kind of put me in his path and put him in my path, because I've been through some stuff. He's been there for me too, you know. And so it's, you know, your story is good for me, and my story is good for you. That's the way I think about it. And so you never know who you're going to meet. Charlie Sampson, one time we were at a team roping, and he went to school at Central Arizona College 10 years before I did. Okay, so we're at this roping, and this guy comes up and says, hey, Charlie, and Charlie calls this guy by name, and he goes, Custer, you remember this guy? And I'm like, yeah, he looks familiar. I didn't know who he was. And Charlie goes, yeah, this is old Ray or whatever his name was. He's the janitor at CAC. And he remembered his name, remembered everything about him. And so that made an impression on me, where that guy found value. He got value from a guy that went from just a guy going to school at a college that remembered this guy's name 20 years after he's the world champ. And it just made an impression on me that people really do, you know, they need to be valued. And so to me, I feel like if we don't do that, man, we're missing the boat. It doesn't matter what we did or didn't do, but it's, you know, what's the old saying? People don't remember what you say to them; they remember how you make them feel.
Exactly.
And man, that's true.
You know, we really never know the impact we have on somebody. What's kind of crazy is sometimes we find out that, oh my gosh, we had an impact on somebody. It's like, I just said hi, or we shook hands or something, and it made an impact. But sometimes it might keep them from doing something that you're glad they didn't, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. You never know about that hello. I mean,
right.
Or that smile.
Right.
You know.
High five.
And the platform that we were given with something that was so stupid as riding bulls or fighting bulls, but I say stupid. It's not the smartest thing in the world, but it was the greatest. It was the greatest time in life. But the platform we were given was not just for us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it wasn't it, and the impact we'll have on somebody's life. My boy got killed in 2011, and I was having a rough day. This was a couple months after he died, and I was having a really tough day, and I remembered. God, I believe, brought it to my memory of my buddy Jeff that got killed. His life and death made such an impact on my life for the positive. When his mom and dad went through, you know, losing a child, the worst thing that could happen to you, and they were at the time that they were mourning, and they were you know, at the worst point in their life. It brought life to me, and it's just like God kind of just showed me, Aaron, my boy's his life made an impact as Jeff did on my life to a lot of people. So, you know, we just don't know. I mean, we just gotta value people, and I feel like that's, if we don't do that, man, we're missing out on what great gifts we've been given. You know, the gold buckle I got on my belt, I took it off today at the school, or yesterday, and I just tossed it to one kid. I said, "You guys pass this around. It's not about me. It's about you. Anything's possible. Look at that buckle. Think about what you're trying to do. You know, so whatever."
I feel a lot the same way. It's not who I am. It's something I did. I did, but it's been a lot of water under the bridge since then. It's I had there's a rodeo in the town I was living in at one time, and there was the two bullfighters and barrelmen show up and out for lunch, and they're walking around the living room and showing them around the house, and they're like, finally they're like they're looking for something. They're like, well, where is it? I'm like, what are you talking about? Your saddle, your world champion saddle. Oh, that's over in that room. Yeah. It's off in the
Saddle house.
And they're like, boy, if I had that, I'd be hanging it right out here in the living room. And it just dawned on me. It's like, it's not that. It's not. It doesn't identify me.
Right.
It's something I did, but it's like, gosh, I would. It kind of makes me shudder to think that I would sit in my living room and it's like, yeah, that's me. That's look at this. Look what I did or whatever. It's like.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, the cool thing is it gives us a platform, gives us a way to meet and reach people and have an impact.
And I think, like, for me, I'm more proud of my world title than I was when it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because now I see the value of it. Back
Right.
then, it was just like, yeah, it's another buckle, and guess what? In 2 weeks, you're just at the bottom of the totem pole again. You
Right,
can go
right.
back at it, try to be the champ again. You
Yeah.
know. So anyway, if you put it all in perspective, it's not like you said, it doesn't identify us, but it does give us an identity to some people that if we use it for the right way, it's good stuff.
Yep.
And I like that thought there, because sometimes it takes time to realize what where you are at in life. You know what I mean? Like, to appreciate the things that we've had, because we were talking earlier, like, I really, in that, I was focused on football.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably a few girls too when I was in high school. But in that 86, starting in that 86 to mostly present now, I keep tabs on what's going on in rodeo because I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it,
Sure.
but my focus was on other things, like, and that wasn't my niche, you know what I mean? But I enjoyed. I even drove some of my friends to rodeos and watched them, and I liked the lifestyle. I mean, I liked being in that group of guys because, like I said, I would drive a few times and this and that because they need some rest in their sleep. But we were talking earlier, you know. So it's 30-some years ago for both of you.
Well,
Maybe close.
25-ish for me.
Okay, you don't.
I'm not as old as Cody.
Okay, you don't look a day over 22. But what I'm saying is, our younger people need to look at what you guys created. Really, and the reason I'm saying this is before 85, 86. The only time rodeo was really on any TV was the NFR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You get to 85, 86, and there's getting to be more rodeos on. You have a TNN, you have other channels that might have done it.
Yeah.
So then you become more of a face to the country.
Right.
Sure.
You know, before then, you'd have to go to a rodeo or know that person, because if you might come to Belfouche, South Dakota, to the roundup,
No.
and that's the only time I see you till I go to the NFR, or if you went to Deadwood or whatever.
Yeah.
But now we see these guys. You know, I mean, you look at now I can't even think of the. My dad has it. Ag Network.
Oh yeah.
Cowboy Channel?
The Cowboy Channel. You have the
Channel.
Cowboy RFD. You know?
RFD, yeah.
You used to be RFD,
Yeah,
right.
the Cowboy Channel. Now there's a rodeo on all the time,
Yeah.
or there's a PBR's on regular.
Yeah.
So you get to see these people. It's kind of like the football player that had the helmet on, but nobody ever saw their face.
Right.
Right.
Saw their number and their name.
Yes. Now we see your face.
Yeah.
Right.
And continually. So you're walking down the street, and I go, there's Jerry.
Yeah.
you know,
Run!
or whatever, you know what I mean? And we need to, like, I appreciate the history of this because I think that sometimes the sport, I mean, I think the sport needs energy, and it does, but sometimes I get a little, like, I'm not a big wide receiver, and I was a wide receiver, and I that's what I want to play. But you see those guys today, it's like I'm a pre-banana, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And I like in the era of that you guys were world champions, it was like you were good, and sometimes when you put off that pre-banana face. Nobody, I don't feel comfortable to come and talk to you because I'm going to stay away. But you guys are inviting.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to get at.
And most guys in rodeo are like it's down to earth. Most guys are cowboy. I mean, I say maybe not as much now as it used to be, but we all worked several events back when we were young. Nowadays, there's kids that come out of living in the city or whatever, and they're bull riders. They can't even ride a saddle horse type stuff, but which is not bad. I mean, that's from the exposure that rodeo's gotten, and bull riding and all that stuff. So there's a bunch of young bullfighters now that probably never even got on a horse. There's a group of young bull riders that are bad to the bone that may not even know how to ride a horse. I don't know. I mean, some of them probably do, but there's probably a bunch of them that are just not. They probably never even been around cattle or anything like that. And so it's just a different era, and I think it's great. I think it's great. I wish that more people were history buffs of the history of rodeo, because I talk to a lot of young guys, and I'll mention the name, and they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, what are you talking about? That guy was my hero, But
yeah.
But anyway, it's. I mean, I guess every sport evolves like that, where, I mean, there's a few names that everybody knows, and then there's a bunch of guys that I know that were great, and this era doesn't even know who they were. So it's like somebody was talking about a young guy that's on the PBR tour they've turned into some superstar that couldn't carry Ted Noose's rigging bag, but Ted Noose rode about, he's about 10 times more famous than Ted Noose is, just because of the exposure. But he couldn't even been in the same room or the same conversation as Ted Noose. It's kind of, you just go, those boys are kind of being deceived in thinking they're great when they've done nothing.
Yeah, it's a matter of the exposure that it's getting nowadays with the television.
And it is, and we were talking earlier. Like, I went to the NFR last year, and actually I went there I had a little ineptness, but I did get a couple good podcasts. But I still had that computer ineptness. But I went there to get some, because I knew people were going to be at Cowboy Christmas.
Sure,
that's where I wanted.
Yeah,
I had contacts there, and it was just interesting that I love the people that I was with. They're rodeo fans, and we're walking around where was it? It wasn't
Cashman
the
Field?
Palms. We stayed at the Palms.
Yeah,
and we're standing in line, and they don't even know who's standing in front of us.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going, and like it's just funny. Like in Fred Whitfield was at one of the parties I happened to be at, and it's like, they don't even know who Fred Whitfield is. They don't know who these other people are. And I'm going, how do you even consider yourself a rodeo?
Fred Whitfield, he rode broncs, right?
I think he did.
He didn't play basketball.
I'm sure he did that on the side.
He did try to be a rodeo clown one time too, I think.
And did he? He could do about anything he wanted.
All them guys, they used to play basketball, like pickup games.
Yeah.
All Alan Bach and all.
Really?
Them guys.
Right.
There was like some vicious stuff going on the basketball court.
Yeah. These guys will play a little different.
But see, that's interesting. That there's that. I mean, we can laugh about that, but I don't think any of these people, and they're from South Dakota, they wouldn't know who Paul Turney was.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
and that's in that era.
Oh yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And it's
Before the exposure.
Before the exposure.
He was great, and nobody really, nobody outside our world, which is a small world really, but nobody remember that name.
Yeah.
Cody would know this. Miles Hare's pretty dang good roper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Did you know he used to be a pretty dang good tennis player?
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think him and Rick Chapman played a lot of tennis.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
cocky.
Yep. Hey, cocky. Cockadoodle. Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
these guys, they might be competing in one event, but they're competitive.
Yeah.
They'll be doing a lot of other sports.
Yeah.
Like who'd have thought this bullfighter's playing tennis?
Yeah.
I guess he's out there with his beard running around playing tennis. Nobody put that together to start with.
So now, here's a question for you. Like, when you knew you were done, did you know what you wanted to do after you were done? Rodeoing or fighting bulls?
I wanted to cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Didn't know what I wanted to do. I talk to these kids about, like, in bull riding, there's no plan B. You've got to have one plan, and that's plan A. But
True.
in plan A, you need to prepare for after rodeo, and that's what I tell them. Like don't make it where if you're not doing good, you go home and do this other thing. Get something going, so that when your rodeo career's over, which it could be tomorrow,
Yep.
you got some place to go, and you have some kind of ambition outside of that. Because I've seen too many guys put all their eggs in one basket, and I tell them kids, don't. I said, if you're gonna put all your eggs in one basket, make sure it's a huge basket. Don't put everything. Don't put all your stock in being great in the arena, because we know guys that were great that never made it for whatever reason, whether it was injuries, whether it was family matters, whether it was they had to go back and take care of the ranch, whatever it is. But I'm just saying, I tell these kids, like, there's no plan B, but make your plan A a lifetime deal, and I use Corey Navarre as a great example. He went to the NFR 4 or 5 times, went to PBR finals probably about the same amount of times. But when he went to college at Weatherford, Texas, he was from Sulphur, Louisiana. He bought some trailer houses up there, and he started renting them to a bunch of the kids out there. So he's making money. I guess he financed these, or he might have saved the money. Heck, who knows? That guy, he's pretty frugal. But he had these house trailers that he was renting out to the kids that were on the rodeo team. And now, when he walked away from bull riding, he had a business started, and he's got a lucrative business that makes who knows how much every year. But he had his plan A was a long plan. It wasn't just one small basket. And so I tell those kids, like set yourself up for later on. BJ Cramps, when he was 12 years old, an old man said, take 20% of what you win and put it away like you never won it. And he did. He started doing it when he was 12. When he walked away from the sport of bull riding, he went and bought a house outright, had the money to do it. Just stuff like that is just taking care of your business and having a vision that's beyond what you're doing at the moment. So
That'd be really.
I didn't do that.
I didn't either.
Nobody told me that.
Right.
It's like
That'd be really good
plan
advice.
A worked out all right, but a lot of guys' plan A doesn't work out. If
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that my plan A was a small basket, and it worked out. But
I was fortunate that I went to college and I got my degree before I went off rodeoing. After college, I rodeoed. That's all I did for a living for 15 years. And there's a degree in psych, social, criminal justice, and figured I'd do something along those lines. And I didn't right away, but I that's where I'm at today. And I've probably spent 20 years working with kids and just working with adults, just the mental health and just life.
that's awesome.
Yeah, the first semester I was working as a school counselor, I realized I got a lifetime of stories that these kids can relate to. This life analogies of life and applications to what they're going through or what life is, what happens in life. And it's like, yeah, I I shook hands with Nolan Ryan. Steve Bouchel. I had no idea who he was. Well, next night I'm watching ESPN, and he signed like $40 million contract today. I shook that hand. Just different things you get to do. And you get
and you think about the bad stuff that happened to you too. That you've got stories for them about that too.
Right.
And
perseverance,
so,
fighting back.
You were talking about like there's a saying that everything happens for a reason. I don't know if that's true, but there's reason in everything that happens.
Yeah.
Because I'm on Plan J right now. I'm not. I didn't. I've passed A, B, and C. Because I actually, when I came back, and then I went. Like I said, I went and played football at Black Hill State. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to Australia. Came back, and then I went back to Black Hill State. Graduated with a history and Indian Studies degree, and thought I'd go work in a museum, and I ended up working in a lumber yard for the rest of my life right now. And then I'm trying to do this too, but there's always those curves in life,
Yeah.
I would have loved to shook Nolan Ryan's hand myself, because all I can see him is the toughest pitcher.
Coming off of
yes,
yeah.
and then I can see
Was
that.
Was that Robin Ventura?
Yeah, it was.
He
Robin
got 5
Ventura.
hits off him that
night, and he was pitching.
right. But a cool thing, I'm sure you have a lot more like in the PBR, but there's people you get to meet that it's like, where would you meet them anywhere else?
Hey, I got a cool story. So I was in Anaheim, California, and I was helping run the chutes, and this guy's on the back of the chutes, and I'm like, he looks kind of maybe familiar, but I wasn't really sure who it was, and I asked Jerome Robinson. I said, "Who is that?" And he goes, "I don't know, some rock star." So I asked around. Is David Lee Roth?
Really?
And so in one of the breaks, I run around back there and I say, "Hey, Cody Custer," and he goes, "Oh, hey, Cody Custer, how you doing?" He said, "I used to try to ride some bulls." He's like, he knew who I was. He was a big fan of bull riding. And I said, "Yeah, I went to your concert at Phoenix in 1983." He goes, "Oh, at the Coliseum." He said, "Yeah, they had that monster truck show." He said, "Hey, we got history, man." I was like, "Oh man, the champ got to meet David Lee Roth."
Yeah. Cool.
That's pretty cool. Stuff like that's cool.
Yeah. By circumstance, I hung out with Toby Keith in his bus one night in Sykeston, Missouri.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's always the stars singing the national anthem at the NFR and stuff.
Yep.
You meet them once in a while.
Yep.
Just fun stuff.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you the one time I did go into the NFR, went to not a watch party, but I went to the Thomas and Mack. You guys looked like that big. You were only inch big. I was so high up.
Cheap seats.
I was so high, but I was at the South Dakota cruise, so that was it ended up that there's just South Dakotans around us. Okay?
Yeah.
But I was so high up, this lady didn't stand for the prayer because she thought she was scared of heights because it's so steep up there.
Oh, wow.
And she stood for the national anthem, but she's holding on to her seats in the back. And it is like, it's steep up there. And I'm thinking, you know what? If I ever go again, I'm going to pay for the lower seats if I can.
Yeah.
Because being way up there, all I'm doing is watching the big TV screen anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Might as well be in a casino.
Yeah.
You talk about monuments. That in 1986, I missed qualifying for the national finals by I don't know how much, but I was on the outside looking in. So I went to Vegas and I bought me a ticket, and guess where I was? I was way the hell up there, and I was looking down. I was watching guys on the floor that I knew I rode better than.
Yeah.
And that night I decided I will be here next year, and that was my first year. Was '87. So
really,
awesome.
kind of a cool.
Kind of same thing happened. I was one of those guys that got me fighting bulls. Keith Jorgensen. We were out there watching the finals in '90, and I said I'm going to be out there next year. I was just kind of blowing smoke, but I had the dream. And
that's cool.
Stumbled into it, and there I was.
Yeah, when you're up there looking and going, I can do as good as those guys.
Yeah.
I can do better than that guy for sure. Or whatever. So it's. I mean, I think that mentality, that mindset. I think
it's huge.
I wonder if I think about the people that have that mindset, like something like that could, like I know a guy that missed the NFR in 1989 and it ruined him, totally ruined him. I missed it in '86. It made me, because I went and watched, and I was like, I will be here next year. So it's kind of I don't know. You can take it. You take it one hand or the other, and one's going to be failure. One's going to be success.
It's kind of your mindset, like you're saying. It's kind of an old adage or old story of like the twins come from the same home.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was really successful and one of them wasn't, and for the same reason.
Yeah.
That's why they were successful. One was successful, one wasn't. It's just how they decided to take it.
Yeah.
And that's, it's absolutely it's mindset. It's
Yeah, and I mean, I've got a friend that she was molested as a child, and just terrible stuff, and she's turned into the greatest human on the planet, and so how you look at it is, you take a situation, you decide what you're going to do with it, I guess.
well, yeah. It's either let it define you or
Yeah.
or don't or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know a couple people. I mean, that haven't been defined how they had grown up or anything.
Yeah.
Or their setbacks in
Yep.
life.
Right.
And that's what's inspired me to be better.
And sometimes that's a catapult, like I was talking to a kid today that his dad's putting this school on. I said, look, dude, you got what everybody wants. And I said, but if you let it slip by without doing something with it, you're not honoring your dad and what he's trying to help you.
Yeah.
And I said, there's some guys out there that don't have the opportunities, and they're going to surpass you if you don't get a work ethic that
Yep.
rivals or outdoes theirs.
Yeah. No, and that's very true. That if you have that opportunity,
Yeah.
use it. If that's what you truly want to do,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
in life, it's because it's interesting to me. Like, we can take a Michael Jordan, we'll say, and
Yeah.
his kids aren't as good as he'll ever be, but
Yeah.
and they would have had the opportunity to be
Yeah.
the best, but that's not the direction they want to go.
Yeah.
Right.
But if that's the direction you want to go, take it and use it
Yeah.
to your fullest, best of your ability.
Right.
You look at life. You look around you in the different walks of life. A lot of the real successful people are the ones that struggled,
Had to
had to
Yeah,
had to
had to
work,
find it.
had to fight.
Yeah.
They saw
Yeah.
what mom or dad went through to make things happen, and they didn't want it to happen to them, or they saw, oh man, I do have to work. I gotta honor the legacy, honor the parents.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm. Whenever I travel,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been to Jamaica, I've been to Mexico, I've been, like we said, to Australia. But when I go to those places, I never stay in a inclusive resort, and I go to the places like I've seen a guy shot in Jamaica. I've been to and blood's coming out. The cops are chasing him. I'm standing on this bus stop, and I talked to this lady, and I said, "Hey, does this happen much?" Well, in her Jamaican accent, she says, "Well, if you steal something, you're going to get shot if you get caught." More or less. But what I'm saying is, and then I went on this tour, and I came back, and I'm in this little shack, like you can see through. I don't know how you survive a hurricane, but what I'm saying is, I go to these places as the American that looks and sees that, you know what, I live in a pretty damn good country.
Yeah.
Right.
And you guys, because they always think that we're rich, but I had to save up to go to these places. I mean, except first time to Mexico, I didn't have to save up as much because it was $300 round trip in 1986. We took a little Subaru to Nogales, Arizona, and rode the bus down. But what I'm saying
That's a
is,
city where there's no girls, right?
exactly.
Right.
But you if you look at what you have back at home, it made me realize what I have and keep on working, because you can achieve things.
Yeah.
That's why I think some of these people, like, we'll just take the Brazilians will say in the
Yeah,
PBR.
yeah.
And I've watched a few of their documentaries, you know, and that's their way out.
Right.
Yeah, that's their way out of poverty, and poverty over there is real poverty. Poverty here is the Wi-Fi is not working. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That's the mentality of Americans do not know what real poverty is.
It is, you know, I mean, there's like, we'll say like last week in South Dakota, it was 106 degrees. You're daggone lucky of being here in South Dakota, and it's only 78 degrees out. But it's 107. It was 104 at least in Spearfish area. I know. But what I'm saying is, if the air conditioning goes out, we're complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
They don't have a heater or air conditioning.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so I think when we do struggle, you know, when you become better if you have that mindset. You got to have that mindset, though. Otherwise, you can't be saying that you're stuck.
Yeah.
But when you have the mindset to be better, you're going to be better. I hate to say this, I'm 56 years old, and last year my stepdaughter had a internship down in New Orleans. So we flew down to New Orleans, and then we drove back, and we had to be in Cheyenne, Wyoming by Sunday night, and then we flew in on a Friday. So, but what I'm saying here is I've never been down there, and it's interesting to see the different parts of the world that you never see.
Yeah.
But you know what? Good people are around us if you just look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We walked into, my wife's a big Still Magnolias fan. And my rule is, except for, and this is funny, but my rule was we don't eat at any McDonald's or anything like that. I wanted to eat in a Waffle House.
Sure.
Hey, that's some good chow right there.
But
Especially late at night.
but I asked this lady at this restaurant we were at, and I said, hey, when we get closer to Shreveport or up in that area, where would be a good place to stay and eat? And she said, well, I don't know, you know. And she said, but I can't. It's Nacogdoches or whatever.
Nacogdoches,
but in Louisiana, Natchitoches or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's where Steel Magnolias was filmed, and my wife loves it. And so we drive in, and it's this time of the year. It was 98, and the sun wasn't shining, and humid out. And we pull up to this historic. We went to the Steel Magnolias house, and then we went to this historic hotel because that's what we could find. And my wife walks in. This is kind of funny. My wife and stepdaughter walk in to see how much it costs and stuff, and they walk out, and she has a drink in her hand already. The bartender said, "You're staying."
Yeah.
It was very friendly and fun. And Cindy said, go park the vehicle. We're staying here. So we walked down and we go to the bar. Then we got our stuff up and we went down and had a couple of drinks. And everybody in the bar were from from different places, but we're all friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about what we can do in America. We can take these elites out, and most people are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm more of a rural, I have to admit, I'm partial to rural people because I think we have more common sense than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too political here because I could.
Yeah. It'd be easy to go down that trail.
Oh, yeah.
But so since I had that technological ineptness, we're getting to the end here. We've talked for an hour and 23 minutes anyway.
Really?
But I always ask one last question, so I'm going to ask. You both can answer individually. I said, what's the best life to you guys?
The best life?
What's the good life to you guys?
I think just family and friends, you know, and I mean, yeah, it's family and friends. Like at the end of the day, when this is all, when the rodeo, you know, lifestyle, whatever is all over with, it's friends that you made that mean more than, you know, I've got a lot of awards and stuff like that, but they're just stuff, and they're great memories, but the people you meet along the way. And one of my best buddies died last year, and Lewis Barnes, he's the guy I rodeoed with when we were young, and he died, and I knew he was sick, and I got told, hey, you need to call Lewis, he's not doing good, and I screwed around. 2 days later, I got the news, and man, if I regret anything, stuff like that, like just I should have just reached out to the guy, and I was like, I'll get to it, and then I didn't, and he's gone. So stuff like that for me.
Much the same. Family and friends, just spending time with them, just one-on-one, or just spending time and letting them know that I love them, just feeling, I guess, and that they love me. But spending time connecting with people, family and friends, you know what, and living in the grace of God, because I've screwed up so much in life.
Yeah.
Imperfect, dang sure, but wow, what a gracious God we've got, and we're loved and we're accepted, and we can just try to emulate that.
Yeah, and I share that, like at all them schools. I'm not pushy about it, but I share my faith and just say, hey, look, we're going to pray before every session, and when it's over, we're going to thank Him for blessing what we ask Him to bless. So, yeah, and then new friends too.
Well, thank
Absolutely.
you. I'm glad to call you
Absolutely.
friend.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and that's, I like, because I think the life we live is what God gives us. And what I'm saying about that is, when you live a good life and you emulate it outside, we influence that
Sure.
to everybody we meet.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be pushy.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if we live a good life, and it doesn't mean we can't have a beer, and it doesn't mean we can't make mistakes.
And if we value people, they're gonna
They'll feel it.
open the door, and that's, I wrote some articles, and I wrote a story one time about a guy I got in the truck with, and my whole goal was to try to witness to him, and by the time that trip was over, that guy hated my guts, and I didn't know his wife's name or his kid's name. There would have been more value in getting to know who he was and know his life, and to this day, I don't really have influence in his life, which, but had I gone about it a different way, and at that point, that's when I decided I no longer, my agenda is not try to witness to people, it's just to be a friend, and if God opens the door, then it's going to be a real deal, because it's not going to be me pushing the door down, it's going to be them opening the door to me. So,
Well, and I do think that being a good person and a good influence is mostly just listening.
yeah.
And learning. Like I told you I worked at a lumberyard, and I know everybody in the lumberyard. I know a little bit about everybody, so I know you, and I can listen to you. And this guy might have that and that interest and that interest, but that's where we're doing.
You
good.
probably know more about them than they know about you, probably, huh?
Probably.
I mean, you know what I'm
It's
saying?
true.
That's the way. I mean, really, that's the way we ought to be. Like,
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been with you since 4 o'clock today, and I know a lot about you, and
Yeah.
and you too. And I just feel lucky that I can call you friend now, and not acquaintance. And if you're ever in the Spearfish area, or you too, Jerry, if you guys are ever around, my wife has gotten used to this. We're like a hotel. She never knows who's going to be stopping by, but you're always welcome to stay.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
we always have extra room and this and that. But I'm going to end her here now, and so I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to chat with both you guys.
Thanks for the opportunity.
good.
It's
Yeah.
special to be able to talk to a bull rider and a bullfighter.
Heck yeah.
I just feel so lucky. So thank you very much. So
Yep. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you.
yes. So
We feel
anyway,
fortunate ourselves.
well, good. Well, you keep chasing your dreams and living your best life, and of course, don't die rusty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.